Hello, my name's Mel Ashworth and welcome to Coffee with a Councillor. I have the pleasure today of interviewing Sonia Russe. Welcome, Sonia, to Western Super Television.
Thank you.
How are you?
Oh, very well, apart from the fact that I have Kermit the Frog in my throat.
Oh, gosh, what are we going to do? We'll have to get some water on. Now, which party are you with, Sonia?
I'm with the Conservatives.
Okay.
And
which ward?
I represent North Well.
Yeah.
And I am on the North Somerset District Council and also the Town Council.
On the two?
So I'm what they call dual-hatted.
Right, okay, because there's been a little bit of controversy about that. How do you juggle the two?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very demanding. Very demanding. So I think, in many respects, I think it would be wonderful if the Town Council were all independent.
Oh, I see.
But it is a very different role.
Yes. How long have you been a town councillor and how long have you been a district councillor?
It was the same election in May this year.
Right.
So very new.
Very new, new girl on the block.
Indeed.
And how are you finding it?
An education. It's not that I've ever been to university, but it's, I imagine, equivalent. Right. It covers every aspect of life and it's very demanding to understand the legislation, the procedure, the language. Very, very demanding. Yes.
Do you find that, I don't know if you grew up in Weston, but the career you went into, has that been able to, help you in your role as a councillor?
Right. Well, I didn't grow up in Weston. I actually moved to Weston in 2006.
From where?
From Bristol.
Oh, okay.
I was born in Bristol.
Yes.
And I was there until I retired. And I came to Weston, which I love. It was absolutely the right move to make.
Yes, it is lovely.
I absolutely adore it here. I work for a public corporation. I was recruited into the civil service. I finished up with the post office counters, which again was a terrific career. But predominantly, I was in personnel.
Yes.
I looked after, human resources, as they now call it.
Yes.
And training and development of people.
So that must really help in your role as a
very
councillor.
people-orientated. Yeah.
Yes, I can tell that you're people-orientated. Sorry, you just said that when you retired. Now, I don't know if our viewers can see properly, but you don't look old enough to have reached retirement age. And if you don't mind me saying so, you're a very stunningly beautiful woman.
Oh, gosh.
What's your secret?
Well, I am the eternal optimist.
So positive thinking.
Very positive thinking. I have been on my own since 1972.
I can hardly believe that.
I've had an interesting journey, but never really cohabited with anybody during that time. Right. And it sort of makes life easy because there is only one line of authority and one line of thinking, and it's down to me.
Yes.
So I think that helps.
Wow. Well, you look absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So you came down from Bristol and you went into human resources. What are you passionate about, Sonia? What really gets you excited, motivated?
Well, I'm passionate about our country.
Yes.
I'm feel privileged to have been born in Britain. I'm passionate about the role of women, particularly when it comes to public places and public positions.
Yes.
52% of our electorate are women, and still the proportion of people in public positions are quite small compared with that of men.
Yes, sorry.
I'm very passionate about that. And once upon a time, a few years ago, a gentleman said to me, well, of course, women's career are interrupted with having babies and families. And I thought to myself, what more maturing and learning process is there in this world other than having children and families?
Absolutely.
And you come out of that experience knowing so much more about the health service, so much more about education, so much more about the cost of living.
Yes.
And I think that makes you perfect to take a major role.
Absolutely. Hear, hear. And statistically, women who have small children make the best entrepreneurs.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
yes.
We have a way to go. I think me and you could talk all day on that subject.
Absolutely. And the other thing I am passionate about is the environment. And looking after the world. I belong to a group called the Environmental Network of North Somerset, which is a voluntary group.
Right.
And we really try to encourage people to understand what is happening to the world in which we live and how we aren't necessarily looking after it in the best way. And we have to look after Mother Earth because she will look after us.
Right, okay.
So,
those are some good things to be passionate about. People that you admire, Sonia. Is there anyone you admire?
Who do I admire? Living.
Living or dead?
Living or dead. Well, I don't know. I suppose the main icons that people would... Again, if I'm going back to the women, people like Elizabeth I, it's way, way back, Catherine of Russia, Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay.
I think she did a tremendous amount for women and for human rights generally.
Yes.
And obviously the suffragettes.
Yes.
So, yes.
Do you think it's important for people to vote?
Most important. The reason why I think it's important is that if you're going to vote, then you need to consider the parties and the individuals that you're voting for, so you then become more engaged with what is happening. And not so many thousands of miles from here, there are young men and women dying for the right to vote.
Absolutely.
And we don't value that privilege that we have. You know, I know democracy isn't perfect.
No.
And we don't always get the government or the leaders that we want, but it is far better than the alternative.
Apparently 40% of the population in Britain vote.
Yes. It's disappointing.
It's very disappointing. What would you say to encourage them to get up and vote at the next election, local and general?
I really don't know what more you can say. I think, unfortunately, the things that make people vote are hard times.
Okay.
And most of us are motivated through pain rather than pleasure. And I think that we are perhaps too comfortable. We have been too comfortable for many years.
Yes.
And so I'm afraid that's a rather sobering message. But
no,
I
but
do
it's one
feel
that
that's
I think
what
we need to discuss.
It's what kickstarts people into becoming involved in the way our country is run. We can all be critical, and I think criticism without responsibility is pretty shallow.
Yes.
Therefore, I think that if we're going to criticise, or if we don't vote, we're not in a position to criticise.
Absolutely.
If we are critical, then we need to find out the facts.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you. On a lighter note,
yes.
3 dinner party guests, Sonia.
3 dinner party guests.
Alive or dead?
Alive or dead. Well, I did look at one of your previous programmes, and I would have chosen Melvyn Bragg, but I believe that...
He's been chosen.
He has already been chosen, so I can't have him. Now, I think it's important that dinner guests communicate well together and spark off each other.
Yes.
And if it's a dinner, I want it to be entertaining,
yes,
and not necessarily the people I would choose to meet on a one-to-one basis, like Leonardo da Vinci and
yes,
Sir Thomas More and people like that. But at a dinner party, I would go for Muhammad Ali.
Oh.
When he was a young man.
Very handsome.
Gorgeous. So I would have my place right next to him. But he was funny. He was entertaining, very quick-witted.
Yes.
I would go for Marilyn Monroe.
Beautiful.
because she was so beautiful, and to everything we've read, there was an intelligence that lay beneath the surface, and I think she would be quite a catalyst for the other gentleman as well that I would include in my group, and that would be Boris Johnson, because he's fun and laughter, and again has a strong appreciation of history, good education. You know, the bluffing and carrying on is a front for what lies beneath. And I know that I could go and collect the desserts and not have to worry about how the conversation was going.
Exactly.
So
there might be a little bit of competition between he and Marilyn with the peroxide, you know, so you might have to rush back in.
Absolutely.
Blue sky thinking for Weston. What would you love without limitation to see in Weston?
Well, I think so many people would say the Tropicana, and I would too, because for 4 years I was secretary of a group called Friends of Our Tropicana. We had the acronym of FOOT, and that was because it was originally came about because we really didn't want the Boot, the Henry Boot development. It was going to be a shopping mall on our beach. We didn't want that, and so we said that the Boot was too big for the Foot. I'm passionate about that, but I think many people will want to talk about that, and I could talk forever about it. I know as much about that site, which is an extremely difficult site, as I think anybody, and I have been all around the country looking at alternative sites. But I think the one thing I love is sailing, and I would love to have a marina. We are 45 minutes from clear water in Weston, and I think a marina would be fantastic. Having wonderful yachts to sit and look at and enjoy, and it would encourage so much development.
Oh, I like that idea. As sort of West Country version of Puerto Banús or something like that.
Absolutely.
Oh, wouldn't it be fantastic?
Yes, it would.
Well, do you know what? I've had the best time interviewing you, young lady. Thank you
you
so much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure, Mel.
Thank you.
I loved it too.
Thank you. And that's all from Coffee with the Councillor. Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.